I had a battle I was against. A big battle. Financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, the whole 9 yards. I was in a battle. Moses, he was told to hold a staff above his head to win this battle. He couldn't do it on his own. His arms were weak and were dropping. His Israelites were dying. Every time it come down, his buddies were dying, man. His men were dying. His friends come up and held his staff above his head with him, and rolled a rock underneath him and said, Moses, sit down on that rock. Sit down.
Hello and welcome back to The Uncomfortable Truth. We have a wonderful guest today. His name's Daniel Norrid. He is with Give 'em Jesus. If you've heard of Give 'em Jesus before, well, you have heard of Give 'em Jesus before because Luke Hockenjoss has been on the show along with his sister and his mother. Daniel is what your title is?
Resources.
Resources. Just resources. Not like resources manager.
I know, man. Like I asked for, I was like, come on, can we make it just sound a little bit fancier? And he goes, resources.
That
and I was like, all right, yeah.
That sounds like Luke.
He's got to keep me in check a little bit.
Luke was messing with me last night. He said, you want me to add you in a group text with Daniel? I said, no, I'll just text him separately. I hate group text. And he's like, I'm going to add you to a group text with all 1,200 of my contacts. I said, I'll block you, sucker, in a heartbeat. You will be out of my life if you do that. That's like a big no-no. Daniel, hilarious. What does resources mean?
So whenever we have a need, so if there's somebody that reaches out through the website, or if somebody walks up to Luke, texting, calls him, whatever. And the funny thing about ministry going into this, and I was going in blind, I had no idea. No 2 days were going to be the same. Mm-hmm. So one day it could be.
Especially not with Luke.
Oh, yeah. You never know. One day I could be sitting with somebody that has a terminal illness and they just want somebody to confide in and to spend some moments with, to talk. The next day I could be halfway across the country and it's some wild goose chase that I'm on. And you never know what comes through. But for the most part, it's utility bills. We donate cars. We give away cars. So it's somebody has a need. If Christ sends us somebody that has a need, we try to find a way to fill that need. Yeah. And so that's kind of my role, just filling that need and being that body.
Creatively.
Very creatively.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because sometimes we're pulling from the bottom of a piggy bank.
Yeah.
And
Luke's talked about finances on this show before and just how many times he's written hot checks believing that the Lord's going to cash it.
I don't even look at I don't even think about the finances anymore. Okay. The Lord will provide. And people say that, but I see it every day doing this.
Yeah.
We had a lady that it was a $200 bill. This is a couple months ago. And I was sitting there and it was like $220 for a light bill. And I was like, and I had just got paid for a preaching gig and I had $200. And I said, well, I got $200 right there and I'll just, I'll pay it, no big deal. We don't have to go out of the account. And I was praying about it and I said, it's not about the 200. It's not about the 200. I said, man, well, if it's not the 200, what is it? And I try to figure it out. What is it? It's not the 200. And I said, well, maybe it's about the rest. I said, how much are your bills? Because she was going to be out of work for a couple of months. And she went through a real tragic situation. And she goes, well, my bills are, and she gave it to me and it was around $1,600 a month for her bills. So I said, all right, well, if it ain't about the 200, maybe it's about the 1,600. I wound up within about 10 minutes, we secured over $3,000 and I paid her bills for 60 days.
That's
to
awesome.
Give them Jesus.
That's awesome. So it wasn't about the 1,600. It wasn't about the 3,000, over the 3,000, right? Oh
no, don't jump ahead because that's what I thought. Well, then there was some for her bill. She's in this little tiny town in North Louisiana. They have no online portal to pay her bills. Yeah. The people she owed the money to, including the cable company, called me personally on the phone to collect their money.
Oh my God.
They're all neighbors. So, and they're like, well, we don't do them online things. We take money and we take cash and money orders.
Okay.
Which is what no one takes anymore.
No. So I drove an hour and a half and one of the people, it was her landlord. And I spent an hour and a half on the phone with her landlord. We had a heart-to-heart. I really got to know this man really quick. And he goes, well, I'll buy you lunch if you want to come over here. And I said, you know what? I got to pay everybody anyway. I'll do it in person. So I drove about an hour and a half. It wasn't about the 200. I spent 2 hours eating lunch with him. We did nothing but fellowship. I learned everything about his life. I learned where he was with God, where he used to be with God, and where he wasn't with God. Well, then I went to meet with her. I sat down with her for about 2 hours. I spent 5 hours in that little town with the two of them. It wasn't about the 200. It was about me sitting down in front of them is what it's about, the both of them.
Yeah, sometimes the Lord just needs to move you.
She
right?
got baptized a week ago.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's not about the 200. It's about the salvation. So that's when, and the lesson I learned from that is it's never about what I can give somebody.
So you would give them Jesus. You're learning these lessons, but how did your journey start?
I was a non-believer. That's about 2 years ago.
How old
About
are
a
you
year
now?
and a half ago. 40.
You're 40.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be 41 in about a week. But
Okay. Happy
Yes.
early birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I was a non-believer till I was 39 years old. And
Like, did that start at what point did that start?
I didn't grow up in church.
Okay.
We had gone to church when I was a kid, but it wasn't every week. It was for a very short period of my childhood, very short, maybe a year or two. But I think it was a social thing. We didn't have prayer inside of our home. And outside of that little short period, I think both of my parents were really struggling spiritually, just like a lot of people are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't hold it against them by any means whatsoever. I have a better relationship after I got saved with my parents than I ever had my entire life.
Was there a time in your life where you recall thinking, God's not real? Like,
all the time.
like-
Absolutely.
like
I mean, I was a non-believer.
when was the
Yeah.
first time that you recognized that you were just like, I don't believe in God?
God was never in the home. He was never around.
Yeah.
He was there every day. But for me, we're born with a veil over our face. And as a non-believer, that veil is really dark. God was there. He was present. I couldn't see past that veil. And that's what I was talking about right before the show, 2 Corinthians 3:16. But we all have a veil, and that veil will be lightened up as we're saved. That veil was there. God was right next to me. I didn't know he existed. And, I don't talk about it a lot about not being saved beforehand, what it was like, because the truth is I didn't know him.
Right.
I didn't know he was even there. And to me, it was nothing. I didn't really argue. I wasn't the type of person, and I say a non-believer. I don't use the word atheist a lot because people believe that if you say atheist, that those are the ones that will sit there and debate everybody. And
Right.
I was so sure on his not being existent, on his non-existence, that I didn't debate people. And I'm going to tell you, there is not a day that goes by that I don't realize how close I was. Not my own salvation, but everybody around me. And I mean that. Every single day I think about that.
You mean how close you were to what?
The people around me not having their salvation.
Because of you.
Because of me. It was so bad. I walked in, my mom was battling her own spiritual path, and I didn't know what that meant. And I walked in, and she had been watching Evangelist on TV. I ridiculed my mom about watching that evangelist. And I put him down. I put that evangelist down. And it was the devil working through me. The enemy was working through me that day. I discouraged my mom, and I'd never seen her turn that TV on that channel again. And it was my fault. I ran my mom off. The enemy used me to run my mom off. I think about it a lot, every single day. Dead men don't feel weight. When I did that in the moment, I didn't feel a single thing. It didn't bother me. But,
you said 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
So
2 years ago.
Man,
Yeah.
I mean, tell us that story.
It doesn't start 2 years ago, though. God, as a non-believer, God was right there in front of me so much, and that veil was keeping me from seeing him. And he was right there with me all the time. And he would give me signs. There would be, and it was very blunt. And I mean that. When I say blunt, I mean, I don't want to use the word miraculous, but it was. God would do things in my life. I should have died so many times. It would blow your mind.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, I had a lawn crew, and I go and I had 2 guys with me, and I had just finished a 1972 C10 pickup. And you know, and you don't know if you think about these old pickups, the gas tank is actually in the cab with you. When we put the truck together, my buddy kept telling me, "Hey man, we need to move that gas tank."
It's like, is it underneath?
Oh no, it's in the cab behind your seat.
Okay.
If you move the seat forward, your
It's right
gas
there.
tank is right there touching it.
Okay.
So your head's touching the gas tank while you're driving them.
That's super smart.
And my buddy kept telling me, you know, and he was, "Hey man, we need to move it." He was like, and it was God working through him at the time. He goes, "Hey, I just got a feeling we need to move this gas tank out of this cab." And you know, and I didn't believe in God back then, and I don't know where he was standing at the time, but God was telling him to move that gas tank. I refused to move this gas tank. So I dropped these guys off. We have a trail park where they were mowing and weed eating, and my mower breaks getting it off the trailer. And my guy said, "Hey, I'll ride with you." You know, I was going to go get a backup mower. Man, it was God, because normally I would let the guys just hop in the truck and go grab the other mower, because it would be easier having 3 of us to unload this mower off the back of the truck, out of the trailer. Without even hesitating, I just said, "No, man, y'all stay here." I remember that I said it so quick. It was like it wasn't even my own words. It was God using my tongue is what it was. Less than 3 minutes later, a girl doing 70 miles an hour drove head on into my truck. The entire truck bit in half. My door blew off. My windshield blew out. I wound up on the side in the ditch.
Gas tank exploded.
No, this is the other part. The truck's on its side in the ditch. The motor and transmission's in the cab with me. It crushed my entire body. The motor's still running when it's on its side. I look over, and the ditch and the cab fills up with gas. I had a full tank of gas. The motor's still running. I reach up, and somehow I turn the key, and the motor dies. The motor was completely disconnected from everything except for that one fuel source, and it died when I turned the key. It didn't blow up. I stayed trapped for 45 minutes in this truck.
Wow.
So for 45 minutes, I was completely pinned in this truck on its side. And I remember, though, when I come to and I turn the truck off, and there was a lady that lived about a quarter of a mile down the road, was in her living room, and had heard the impact. That's how loud it was. She's standing there, and she's the first person I've seen. And she was crying, just wailing like she had lost a family member. And I realized I had blood all over me. She thought she had seen a dead person in the truck. And she actually did see a dead person. I mean, I didn't believe in God, man. That was about as dead as you can get. I pull through, and they get me out of the truck. I get airlifted. I had broken pretty much everything waist down. I shattered my pelvis, shattered my feet. We did a month in rehab. I get out of it. My wife actually had to quit her job. I shut my business down. I quit my full-time job. We lost everything. We went $1 million in debt. My wife stayed at home with me for a year. She quit everything. And she worked full-time. She loved her job. She quit everything to sit next to me for a year. I was never supposed to walk again. They had told me that my bones were crushed to the point to where I would never be able to stand up and walk longer than 5 minutes without so much pain. I'd have to sit down again. So after about a year, I'm in physical therapy, and they said, "Well, today's the day. We're going to get you up. You're going to stand."
You didn't stand for a full year.
Yeah, I was wheelchair bound for over a year.
And how old were you at that time?
This would have been, I would have been about 30, 29.
Okay. So it's about
29.
10 years ago.
Yeah, it's 10 years. It was 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, August 4th. It's one of those things where the time and the date, I'll never forget it.
August 4th was the day that you stood, or the day that the accident
That's the day
happened?
the accident happened.
Okay.
So I stand, and they had told me that, I was going to use a walker for the rest of my life. You tell a 30, and I was an oil field guy. I did 10 years in the oil field. I was a blue collar dude. The idea of me walking around with a walker was not something I wanted to do.
Yeah, especially at 30 years old.
Oh man, and I had, I didn't like being told what to do. Also, I was kind of a rebel. So the first time I stood up, we start walking around the room, and they started throwing a hissy fit because they wanted me to say, no, you're too long. You're still walking too long. You're going to fall. There was a clock in the back of the room. I had watched that clock and made sure it was 6 minutes before I sat down. And I sat down after 6 minutes. And I was crying. I was hurting. I was relieved. More pain than you could ever imagine. But they were scolding me. And I said, you know what? I beat them. They said 5 minutes. I gave them 6. And I said, I'm going to be all right. We get ready to leave. And he goes, well, and I'm a physical therapist. He goes, I'm gonna go get you a walker. I said, no. I said, get me a cane. No, man, the doctor said a walker. You need a walker. You're not stable enough for a cane. I said, well, man, if you give me a walker, I'm going to stop at the Rite Aid on the way home, and I'm buying me a cane. So I said, do you want to give me a cane to use, or do you want me to go buy a cane from Rite Aid? I'll go get you a cane. And I walked up to the car with a cane. And it was, backtracking a little bit before I was walking. I was still in the wheelchair. It was about 6 months after the accident. I had just learned how to get out of the bed and into a wheelchair and into my car. So I'd been at home for 6 months at this point. 6 months of not leaving my bedroom. My brother-in-law called and he goes, hey man, there's a revival happening at this little Baptist church in town. Do you want to go to a revival? And I looked, I said, you know what? I want to do whatever it takes to get out of this bed right now. I'm going to go, I don't care what you have me doing. I'm going. I'll go to church. I didn't go to church, man. I was a non-believer.
Yeah. The option to go
to do
anywhere.
Anywhere, man. It happened to be a revival that I got invited to. So my wife, it takes us about 2 hours to get me out of bed and to get me into the wheelchair and get me in the car. And we show up. We're the last ones at the church. There's nowhere to sit really. Well, we realized the wheelchair, I can't get out of my wheelchair. Well, the pews have an arm on them, so you can't slide over like I had been taught. So I had to sit in the wheelchair through the service. And man, the wheelchairs are not comfortable at all. But I'm sitting there and so I'm in the aisle. Stacy's right next to me. My wife's next to me. And the preacher walks out. The first thing he said, he looks and it might have been because I was in the middle of that aisle in a wheelchair and I was a big old boy back then, but he looks directly at me. And the first thing he says, sometimes bad things happen to good people so that good things can happen to others. That's the first thing he said.
What'd that mean to you in that moment?
I was mad. I wasn't mad at God because I didn't believe in God. I was mad at that preacher. How dare, and he didn't know me, but how dare he say that to me? My wife looks at me. My wife's been a believer her whole life. I would say I was an agnostic or non-believer. My wife would tell you I believe in Jesus Christ. She would say it quick. But my wife looks at me and she goes, you ready? I said, yeah. We left. I stayed maybe 5 minutes, long enough for him to say that, and I left. I think it was God telling me it was okay. That's what I think. Now that I look back, it was God telling me it was okay.
What was okay?
The accident. There was a purpose to everything. We have free will. That girl, the decision she made in life was her free will. God gave us that power to have free will. Her free will caused the accident. She was a drug addict. But the accident, God was going to use that accident for some good.
Mm-hmm.
She used her free will, but God's going to use the outcome for something good.
Did it take you starting to believe that there was a higher power, that there was something more than just this nothingness before you started realizing that maybe there was a purpose behind the trial and challenge that I went through in that accident?
It took me a very long time. I was bitter about what happened. Outwardly, I forgive her, and it's okay. And, in the moment, it wasn't. I never truly, until recently, really understood what that meant.
So,
Yeah.
so it took you getting to a place where God you feel like God revealed that to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Prior
Yeah.
to your belief in God, there was nothing.
Oh, there was nothing there. There was, yeah. Oh no. Yeah. It was
just-
it
it
was
was just-
purely before it was
Anger.
It was anger, 100% anger all the time about it.
What would you say?
And, because I mean, it destroyed. I mean, it really tore some stuff up.
If somebody asked you before you were a believer, like what do you think about life? Like what happens to you after you die? Like how do you find purpose? Where's your hope? Do you have hope? How would you answer those questions before?
There was nothingness, is what I thought after you died. I mean, there was just nothing there.
What was the point to life?
Yeah, you live it while you got it.
Yeah.
I mean, you did the best you could, and I use the excuse of morality a lot, to where I'd be like, oh, well, I mean, I have ethics, and it's funny. God will use stuff back on you, right? So that was my little worldly, earthly thing that I used to kind of, to justify, who I was. And, and the thing is, you still cause chaos. I don't care how good you think you're doing, you still can cause chaos. And I was causing all kinds of havoc.
So were you trying to live by a standard of morality that you set? Like,
try 100%,
to be a good
100%.
Husband,
oh yeah,
support my family.
Oh yeah, and I didn't even
be a good person.
I would say yes, but the truth is, I caused chaos. After the accident, at one point, my wife, she looked at me, and we're laying in bed, and she goes, "This isn't working anymore." Because after the accident, I kind of went wild.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I started walking again, I bought a motorcycle. I was riding a motorcycle before I was off of a cane. I'd ride around on a motorcycle with a cane on my back. And she looked at me, and I mean, I was running the roads. I was bar hopping. And she looks over at me, and it's about midnight. And she goes, "Well, this ain't working." I said, "Yeah." And she goes, we need some time apart. And I said, "All right." I said, "We can never use the D word." I said, "If we can separate, let's not use the D word ever." And she goes, "All right, we're never going to say that." I said, "All right." And she goes, "Are you hungry?" I said, "Yeah, I can go for a snack." She goes, "I'm going to make us a snack." And I wish that was the end, right? And that's how this separation started. The truth is, less than 5 minutes later, we're throwing plates against the wall. We're screaming at each other. I mean, it was a full meltdown very shortly. I ended up leaving, and I'd started, at this point, I was working in a career as an MC. So I was announcing for racetracks. I was on the radio at a radio show. I mean, I was really trying to do everything I could. Just every dream I had as a kid, I was trying to live it out. And it led to me being on radio, and I was an announcer. I announced a monster truck show. And by the way, as a kid, there's nothing cooler than being the Sunday. Yeah, like there's nothing cooler than that. But
is that a monster truck reference?
Oh, it is.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Every commercial for monster trucks, Sunday.
Oh, yeah,
Monster Madness. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah. It's all coming back to me now.
The Southside Arena, it's, meet Godzilla, it's, yeah. So as a kid though, that's what I remember, so, but I man, at one point after I leave the house, I move in, I live downtown in this house, and I had every roommate was bartenders. And I'm not exaggerating. Every Hooters girl from the local Hooters stayed at our house every day. And I'm not bragging, because I'm going to tell you now, I hardly ever talk about that moment in my life, because I am not happy about that whatsoever, by any means whatsoever. Our house was so bad. We had a drug dealer, he was a cocaine dealer, that slept on our couch. We had a pit bull named Killer that wandered around the house. And we was in the bars 7 days a week, and that's where I worked at. I mean, it was complete chaos. And eventually, I just couldn't live that life anymore. I mean, it started collapsing, falling apart. And my wife, in all of her grace, I called her one night. It was bad. And I said, "Honey, I got to come home." I said, "I'm going to get killed. This is bad." And the FBI had just raided our house. I mean, it was a whole thing. And I said, "Honey," I said, "I got to come home." And I said, "I can't do this." And she goes, "Come on to the house." It's, she took me back in. It was, I don't know why.
How long did that stint of separation last?
Less than 6 months, 8 months. It was a very chaotic 6 or 8 months. We got back together. Well, she ended up helping me out with the business, and we built this entertainment business around my MC career. And We bought a house, bought our dream house. We had nice cars. And God has a way of slowing us down if we get ahead of ourselves. At least for me, he does. And I started getting sick. And I got to where my joints would swell up. And then it got to where I had no energy. And then it got to where I felt like I had the flu all the time. I went doctor to doctor to doctor, nobody knew what was wrong. And finally I looked at my wife and I said, honey, I got to slow down. I'm in the bar 7 days a week working. I'm fist fighting 20-year-olds. I'm not proud of it by any means. I really mean that. I mean, I'm in the bar 7 days a week fist fighting. And I told her, I said, I can't keep doing this. And I said, my body's falling apart. I'm going to have to slow down at work. I said, we just got to do something. My business just started decaying. Staff started leaving and moving. I never could replenish the staff. The venues, they got tighter on money. And the next thing I know, I'm working enough to pay bills. And then I go back home and I lay in a bed for a week sick. I finally decide one day, I said, you know what? Mind, body, spirit. And I said, my mind is in a dark place, a real dark place. And I gotta work on that and fix that. And then I said, my body, it's falling apart. I can barely walk. I'm in this bed more than I'm out of it. And I said, spirit, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is. I got to work on that too. God sent me a nurse practitioner that wasn't even she wasn't even working my case or anything. It was a friend of my wife's. She diagnosed an autoimmune disease I had in the middle of the night. And she sent us a text and figured it out. Next thing I know, I was on chemo, taking 12, 13 pills a day. My health started coming back. I quit smoking. And I smoked since I was 12 years old. I quit smoking cigarettes. The chemo, you can't drink on chemo, so I quit drinking. My health started getting better. So my mind is getting in a better place. I had gotten my dog Buddy, and at this point, and Buddy really kind of helped me out on that side of things. My body started doing a little bit better. The spirit, though, I couldn't jumpstart that part. You can do yoga. You can do whatever you want. Unless you got God in your life, you can't jumpstart the spirit side of things. Mm-hmm. You can soul search all you want. If you don't have God on your side, you're not going to find that happiness. I am spiritually a 12 right now out of a 10. Physically, I may be feeling a 2 right now, but yeah. Spiritually, though, I am a 12. I could never find that without God.
So you said you have an autoimmune disease. What were you diagnosed with?
It's called psoriatic arthritis.
Okay. Well, how does it affect you?
So I have a severe case of it. There's only about 200,000 people that have it in the States. And I come from a very small percentage of the 200,000 to where it's actually in my spine. It's any of my tissue, my joints. So it actually causes inflammation and swelling. But also it robs you of all of your energy. It robs you of stamina. Everything you have as a kid, where you can run 100 miles an hour to where you never run out of breath and you never run out of energy. I don't get to go to sleep and replenish at nighttime. Once my body is done, it's done until it starts healing again. So if I overdo it one day, it could be 3 or 4 days before I get it back.
Yeah.
So I could look normal one day and then the next day. Well, it started causing some swelling around my heart. And the swelling around my heart ended up with a pacemaker out of that. And then it was my eyesight. It actually caused some inflammation in my eyes. I'm starting to lose my eyesight. It's in my spine right now.
Does it jump around your body?
It jumps around your body. It goes from joint to joint. So rheumatoid arthritis, it typically affects both sides at the same time. So if you have it in one hand, you have it in the other hand. One elbow, the other elbow. With psoriatic arthritis, it goes from joint to joint to joint. But then it works similar to like lupus, to where it can also affect the swelling in tissue. And mine is the type where it gets in my tissue and affects my tissue.
So what was the purpose of chemo?
The chemo, I'm on chemo for life. And
okay. Is it like a
pill?
Or
it's a pill.
Okay.
I take a pill every single week to eight chemo pills a week. And
I guess I just assumed that chemo was for
Only
cancer
for cancer.
patients.
Yeah,
it's immune suppression.
Okay.
That's what it is. So that's how chemo works. And so my autoimmune is my immune system is in overdrive. So the chemo suppresses that to keep it in check. Well, the downside to that is when you get rid of your immune system
Yeah, you can get sick easy, right?
all the time, and you stay sick. And I can go, and that's what got me out of the bars. Because
The
when I would go
psoriatic
exert myself,
arthritis.
it was because I'd go in there and I would use all my energy on a microphone. I'd bounce around the stage. I'd do whatever I needed to do. Right.
Yeah, MC, you have to be.
I'm
high
moving
level.
high energy.
Yeah.
And they would drag me to the stage. And then I would get up there and I'll be running around. I would climb on stuff. I'd be all over the place on the microphone, screaming, hollering, working the crowd. And then they would drag me off the side of the stage. And I made so much money doing it. I got to where I would just have to do it. And, well, it's a cruel disease. It really is. It's a cruel disease. But, and it's funny because I said that I can get up there and I can MC and everything else and wear me out. But I can talk about the Word of God. And I'm telling you, I could sit here for 3 days and I would never stop.
You feel
really could.
Your body feels sustained.
It does.
Through that.
I get very comfortable when I get in the Word. I do a Bible study with a good friend of mine that we spend 2 to 3 hours every single Wednesday. And we've been on the book of Ephesians for a couple months now.
Okay.
And we made it to we're on chapter 4.
A lot of hours.
We're on chapter 4.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rabbit holes. So when you never read the Bible, as a kid, I never opened the Bible. As I remember when I first started reading scripture, I was so lost trying to find and I'd feel bad because
what does this mean?
Oh, I didn't know where anything was.
Yeah.
And as a non-believer reading scripture, it is so much different than when that veil is lifted. When the veil was lifted, then I wanted to know the who, what, when, where of every scripture.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking into and I would look into, well, what's the history side? What's the earthly side of the scripture? Because that's what non-believers need to realize. You can argue the existence of God all you want. You argue the existence of Jesus, and you're going against archaeology. You're going against the history books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pure ignorance at that point if you want to start arguing his existence.
Well, it goes back to the veil.
That's it.
It goes back to the veil.
Oh, 100%.
Let's go back to your story.
Yeah.
At 29, 30 years old, you have a car wreck that probably should have killed you.
Oh, yeah.
Doctors say you're not going to be able to walk for 5 minutes without being exhausted. You've broken a lot of your bones from your waist down. You were in a wheelchair for a while, couldn't even walk for 6 months. After that, a cane. Immense pain, I'm assuming.
Oh, all the time.
And then later on in your journey, you're diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis.
Yeah.
And you still haven't technically found, given your life over to the Lord.
No, I hadn't even started searching.
Okay, so
yeah.
Then you get to this mind, body, spirit thing, which, before the podcast, we discussed where did that come from? And you said that was the Lord, but in that moment, you had no idea.
I had no idea. No.
That was the beginning of your journey to figuring out, okay,
it was. But, I wasn't searching for him, right? I wasn't looking for him because I still thought he didn't exist.
So my question is, why do you think it was so hard for you to get to that point? I think Obie and I discuss all the time.
Okay.
We know things that
here's what's crazy.
We know things that are good for us.
Yeah.
And we'll do them for a little while, and then we just stop. Why don't we stop? We said this morning, what did you say about stretching and stuff? I just stopped. I just didn't do it anymore.
I just stopped. There's no good reason other than a lack of commitment, a lack of just the want to.
Yeah.
It's just give up. You know?
And that's, as a guy that lost 38 years on earth without knowing Christ, one of the most heartbreaking things for me is A, seeing somebody that has no relationship, and then B, somebody that claims to have a relationship, but they're not being a follower. They're just being a believer. And, and it's fun. That's what somebody, you just stop stretching one day. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people, oh man, I love Christ, God's real. And then, Monday morning though, they're worried about everything except for that book. They're worried about everything except for the Bible and worried about everything except for Christ. They open the door for somebody. They're not taking that opportunity to invite them to church.
Do you feel like because it took so many crazy things that happen, and like what most people would consider terrible. Do you feel like that veil got thicker and thicker and thicker?
It did.
Like the longer you go without Jesus?
And I still thought he didn't, and when you think that he doesn't exist, he's just not there to you in your sense. That veil is so dark, you can't see. But I'll tell you how he works though, man. Just like in my accident, to where there was that tragedy of the accident itself, somebody had free will and that's what happened. In life, we have physical death. Thankful for Jesus Christ and the Lord, we have something past that, but we have physical death. There was a girl, her husband was sick, and the young couple was in their late 20s, and it reminded me of my wife and I, to where she almost lost me. They had no money. He had heart disease. He wound up in New Orleans, and he passes away. And I see this on social media. I didn't know the girl real well. I've met her a couple of times, but man, I watched their journey on social media, and I noticed she starts selling everything in her house. And this is directly after his passing. She has no money whatsoever for the funeral. He wanted to have a proper burial. He didn't want to be He didn't want to be cremated. Luckily, he was baptized and saved right before he passed away. But he didn't want to be cremated. He wanted to be buried back in North Louisiana. It was $10,000. The girl sold stuff in her house and had $1,000 saved up in the first couple of days. But they had no money whatsoever. And they had kids. I mean, it was horrible. And I knew this guy that he once paid for a funeral for a stranger in town that I had sent to him years before. And so I sent my buddy Luke Hawkinjoss a message, and I said, "Hey man, I do your thing, but I got this girl," and I sent the details, and he goes, "Well, man, my ministry, we ain't got no money in the bank right now." And I said, "Well, man, I didn't believe in prayer at the time, right?" So I said, "Just do your thing. Do what you do. Do what you do."
I don't know what you do, but
he prayed.
You figured it out.
He prayed.
Yeah.
Is what he did. He prayed hard. It wasn't much longer than that. I don't think it was a day or two later. He sends me a message. The funeral's taken care of. Body's coming home.
How old were you at this point?
Oh, this is 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a pretty
Year and a
important
half.
point in your life.
This is during
absolutely.
your mind, body, and spirit journey.
That's it. It's right there with it, man. This is God took care of that spirit side, man.
Mm-hmm.
He was working it. And he goes, we got it taken care of. And she had some other donors, and we raised up a bunch of money, man, right afterwards. And he reaches back out a little bit later on, and he goes, "Did you know her car was broke down?" I said, "Dude, I don't know her that well." He goes, "Man, the head gasket's blown on it, and she's been bumming rides."
It sounds like a random text from Luke. It's like, "Hey, do you know so-and-so's car broke down?" Luke, I don't really know him that well.
No, that is exactly what it is. Yes, because you have to look for references with Luke when he sends you a text.
Yeah.
So he goes, "I'm going to go buy her a car. Give him Jesus is going to go down and buy her a car." He goes, "We had some extra donations come in. You know what? I want to buy her the nicest car we've ever bought for somebody." Guys, here's the thing about giving. You're not only giving a materialistic thing. When you give a blessing to somebody, when the Lord blesses you and you bless somebody else, and I mean this even you don't have to be a financial, sense. It could be emotionally. It could be, "Hey, are you okay today?"
No, I'm not.
Yeah. And you know what? It's
I just wanted to throw you off a little bit.
But it's you end up finding salvation somewhere. Your good deed can help somebody else get salvation. What's the most important thing in life?
Yeah, make disciples.
And that's what you can do when you give. And I know that now. So I told Luke, I said, "Hey, man, I felt like I owed him something, right? Because now I learned you don't necessarily owe people, man. That's a crazy philosophy. If somebody does something good for you, it doesn't mean you're indebted to them. You're supposed to do good for everybody. But I felt like I was indebted, man. And I was like, you know what? Where are you going to be at this weekend?
You felt like you needed to pay it forward.
That's it.
He solved a
I had to give
problem
him
for
something
you.
back. And I had to give something back to him. So I said, you know what? I'll go to church with you, man. God would, it was God would send me really good sermons when I was a non-believer. And I always said, well, I can get some morals when I go to church. I can get some ethics when I'm in church. A good sermon to teach you something. Well, it was God talking to me, and I just used it in an earthly sense. But I said, man, I'll go with you. Where are you going to be at? And he said, Lake Bistino Baptist Church. Well, dude, that is 2 hours from my house, and I am broke. And my truck gets 12 miles to the gallon. So I was sitting there looking at it, and I said, man, that's $50 in gas. And I said, Luke, I'll be there. I'll go. And the week went on. Saturday night, I'm supposed to get up. Remember, I told you morning times, I don't do very well in the mornings. But I was going to get up extra early and drive to Lake Bistino Baptist Church. But Saturday night, man, I was walking out the door. A, I didn't feel like getting up early. And B, I didn't have $50 for gas. I mean, I had no money then. And I said, you know what, honey? I'm texting Luke. I'm just going to tell him I'm not going tomorrow, and I'm going to make up some excuse why I'm not going. And the truth is, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to get up early, and I didn't have $50. I walked to the back of my truck outside, and it was evening time. And my wife hollered out, and she goes, whoa, what is this? And there is an eyeglass case in our driveway. And she goes, honey, there's drugs in it. I go look inside, and there is a white powder, there's a syringe, and there's some cash. Somebody had thrown a bag of drugs in my driveway. So I called the local cop, local police station. They sent an officer out, and it was a giant bag of meth. And if you know Luke's story, Luke was a meth dealer. But there was some random car that had thrown meth in my driveway. And as we're going through it, and he was disposing of everything, the cop slid 2 20s and a 10 out of that thing. He goes, well, I didn't see no cash in there. I didn't see no cash either. Guys, I got a picture of it. There's 2 20s and a 10 that was in that eyeglass case.
That's awesome.
Whatever random drug dealer threw dope in my driveway. So A, we got some dope off the street, and B, it paid for me to go to church the next morning, and I'm a car guy. So I'm sitting there, we get out of service, and Luke and I were the last ones leaving the church. And by the way, that's how it is now, man. I'm the first one there and the last one leaving. And we're the last ones there. And I hear a big block fire up. Man, that cam's loping. And the preacher goes, that's Hot Rod Granny. Hot Rod Granny is, that's our organ player. And she has a bunch of hot rods. Her husband passed away and got all these hot rods. If the kids ain't around, she'll even do a big burnout for you. Guys, I'm sitting there, and she pulls up in front of us, in front of the church. Now, guys, her hands are on the steering wheel up here, right? All right. Now, Hot Rod Granny's about 4'2". So her eyes are through the steering wheel, and she has the big grandma sunglasses on that cover your whole face. Granny looks over at me, and I just gave her a little tiny doo-doo-doo. And Granny, she nods and does the biggest burnout I have seen in a long time, all the way in front of the church, all the way down the street. Nice. Luke looks at me and goes, God's speaking out to you today. I said, he's working on it. And he goes, well, where are you at spiritually? 0 to 10. Where are you at with Jesus? Man, I'm a 1 or a 2. Well, it offended Luke. He goes, that ain't good. I said, I was a 0 walking in. A 1 or 2 ain't bad. But it's not too long after that, I'm laying in bed, and I was still, and I had called all my friends that were Christians when I left, though. And I told them, man, I just went to church, and I had talked about Hot Rod Granny. Mm-hmm. And man, they were just, oh, that's good. You went to church. It's good. You went to church, But I was still a non-believer. I'm laying in bed, and I get a text. Hey, man, if there was a camping trip for Christians, would you mind going? It's for 3 days. And it was somebody would give them Jesus. And I was like, man, I know they helped out with that funeral and stuff. And I said, I think I'm going to go. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this. I like camping.
Something was stirring in you.
Oh, absolutely.
Something was stirring in you.
That veil was getting light. That veil was getting lifted. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'll go. And it was a retreat. I didn't know what that meant. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be around a bunch of people that aren't going to be honest. They're going to, my perspective of what Christianity was, or religion in general, was you put on a front and then you're a different person when you go home. I was wrong. I step off the shuttle, and I was going to try to be quiet for 3 days. If y'all know anything about me, being quiet for 3 days is not something I am going to be good at. But I get off the bus and I see somebody pop a Zen in their mouth. And I was like, oh man, it means I can do Zen and they ain't going to hold it against me. I was like, I thought we were supposed to, I thought we were supposed to pretend around each other. I was like, wait a minute. I heard somebody, and I'm working on mine. And I heard a curse word come from the corner. I said, man, these people are flawed like I am. We're all flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Said, even the Christians are flawed. And man, we sat through this, and they're going around, and one person from a table is supposed to get up on the stage. Well, it's a microphone and it's a stage. I'm an MC. So they're supposed to give a testimony. Man, they get to my table. Nobody at my table will get up. Well, guys, I still didn't believe in God. And I'm just sitting there, and nobody at my table would get up. And I said, you know what? It's a microphone. I'm going to get up and I'm going to tell the story about my car crash and what that preacher man said when I went to church. And I wasn't doing it out of spite, but I wanted to just tell that story and what he had said. I want to use the word coincidence when I was on that stage. Guys, I've been in front of 5,000, 6,000 people on a microphone. I didn't stutter. When I was in front of 100 people and I went to use the word coincidence, I don't know if the word came out of my mouth or not. To this day, in my head though, what I heard was a stutter. The word coincidence was coming out as every time I went to say it. Finally, I said, there is no coincidence. And I got off that stage. I got off the microphone. There is no coincidence. That night, I prayed for the first time. For the first time ever, I prayed. And God answered. And I'm going to tell you, man, if you've never heard, people, it is the most heartbreaking thing that somebody can take that for granted. Because I'm telling you, that is the most beautiful conversation I've ever had. Whenever I prayed and I said, Lord, and he answered and he gave me a response and I heard him. It wasn't my voice. It was God. And it was Jesus Christ just working with me. And I said, well, should I do this? I started asking questions, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't understand how it worked yet. And I said, well, Lord, he was speaking to me and I was like, man, that means I can get some answers. Where there's a mystery in God. And God's mystery is a real thing. And I spent a month deep diving the mysteries of God. And I said, Lord, should I sell my house and move to the Ozarks? Should I move to the mountains? Should I do this? Should I do this? And God said, sit down. No, Lord, I said, I'm confused. What should I do? He goes, sit down. I'm riding in a car not too long later after that, Luke, and man, I was riding a dirt bike every day. I had a dual sport motorcycle, and my wife was driving my truck because we sold her car to pay credit cards. And trying to pay my medical got out of hand, still is, but we sold the car to pay for medicine and pay for credit cards. And we're in riding. They were buying me a truck. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you go right now and you tell somebody that is living in poverty that people are given vehicles, they're going to think you're crazy. That is something I didn't know existed till I was nearly 40 years old. I didn't know you give another person a car. That is the craziest thing in the world. You got a spare car and you give it away? That is absolutely crazy. But we're driving to go buy me a truck.
It does feel
crazy. It is crazy, man.
Yeah.
To somebody that didn't, I'm telling you, I did not know that was a thing, man.
What else, something else I was thinking about as you're talking about being a non-believer for so long is I can't imagine like the first couple of times that you walk into a church and all these words that people use in church.
Oh, no. I still, no. It's a daily thing with me.
It's like, what does that mean?
No, I am pulling the dictionary up on my phone nonstop.
Don't worry.
Google is there. Dude, Google is there.
Yeah.
It's a
Old
man, because
church
the Christian
dictionary.
vocabulary is it is
Yeah,
it's a
that's
whole
different
thing.
lingo.
Yeah, I'd love to do classes for people that
Yeah.
just found Christ.
This
Just
is
to
what this means.
literally just
The
to
new
break them in.
language.
It's break them into the culture, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. And but and we're riding in that car. We're going to get me a truck, man. Give him Jesus was buying me a truck, and we're riding down the road. And Luke goes, Exodus 17. And I said, what? And by the way, I learned now what that meant. Man, you can holler scriptures out without even knowing you even said them, right? Because later on, I said, Luke, what was that scripture you said? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know, man. It just came to me. Exodus 17, man, sit down. So I was told to sit down, right? I was sick. I had a battle I was against, a big battle, financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, the whole 9 yards. I was in a battle. Moses, when the Israelites were in a battle, he was told to hold a staff above his head to win this battle. He couldn't do it on his own. His arms were weak and were dropping. His Israelites were dying. Every time he come down, his buddies were dying, man. His men were dying. His friends come up and held his staff above his head with him and rolled a rock underneath him and said, Moses, sit down on that rock. Sit down. His friends held his hands up so he can win his battle. That's the same thing that happened to me. I'm in a battle. My friends were holding my hands up for me, and I was sitting down for the first time in my life. I was letting Christ take control. I was letting my friends take control, and I was going to go with it. But you know what? The beauty in this, that same truck, it doesn't end. It doesn't stop. You see, a good friend of mine broke down the other day. He was between jobs, just went through a divorce, had remarried, has a couple of kids. His truck breaks down. It was coincidentally, there is no coincidence, but God put me on the other side of the interstate when he called. I was about 30 minutes from my house. I was on the other side of the interstate when he called. I broke down, man. I said, where you at? He told me, and I said, dude, I am looking at your truck. I am busting a U-turn right now. We towed his truck, and it was $5,000 to fix it. He has no money at the time, man. God gave me that truck, man. He used giving Jesus to get me that truck. I gave him that truck. And that truck that giving Jesus gave me, I was able to give him. His wife is getting baptized this Sunday.
That's awesome, man.
Dude, it's an amazing thing.
It is an amazing
It's more
thing.
than just a material, right? It's like when you,
Oh, man, it's salvation, man.
yeah, there's so much more to
It's eternity.
diving into that. But, sometimes it just starts with a conversation, and a conversation can start over a dinner that you pay for somebody else.
Oh, man, absolutely. You know what? And
Sitting
it's
across the table from somebody or giving them something.
I don't care where I am with my finances. And this goes for anybody that watches this or listens to this. If you want coffee or lunch, you reach out to me, and it is on me.
Yeah.
I don't care where you live at. My wife gets upset because I do a lot of traveling, but I will drive anywhere. And you know what? I was blessed with a Prius to drive every day now, so I don't get 12 miles to the gallon.
That's a little bit
I get
better.
50. I
Yeah.
get 50. But you know what? That's that 50 miles to the gallon. I can make my own book of Acts.
That's right. I want to go back in your story a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
You went through from the time of your accident to the time that you started following Jesus.
Yeah.
8.5 years. Is that right? Your wife went through it with you.
Yeah.
And you said, when you called her and said, I need to come home, she said, okay.
Yeah.
Have you guys talked much about those 8 years since you've started following Christ? And
I've only been with him for 2.
Okay.
Yeah, year and a half. Yeah. I've only been saved for a year and a half.
So those 8 years, I'm sure, were hard on her.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine. I was there. I was the cause, and I couldn't imagine.
Have you guys had many conversations about what she was going through?
We need to.
That's good.
We
Yeah.
need to. We need to. I know it was hard on her. I know
Yeah.
it was hard on her. And I put her through a lot.
Yeah.
I really did. And, and it's, If you can find somebody that's going to sit at your bedside for a year, that's somebody to keep.
It's pretty amazing.
That's somebody to keep. But it's Acts 16. You will be saved, you and your household. You know what the beauty in every bit of this is? So like I said, I didn't grow up in a religious household. We didn't pray as a family, nothing like that. When I found God and I chased him and I'm running with this thing, my mom goes to Sunday service with me every Sunday evening. My mom, the one that I try to push away from Christ, she reads her Bible. She's reading the book of Luke right now. And she calls me, hey, I read the scripture today. This is really good. What do you think about it? My mom that I try to push away from Christ is saved. My dad, we didn't have a relationship for over 10 years. When I got saved, I sent a random text. I miss you. Sometimes that's all you got to say. I said, I miss you. I went to Christmas with my dad last year. This last year, for a year, I've had a better relationship with my dad than we have had in 40 years. My dad woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning yesterday, 3 days ago. And I'm going to tell you, you get a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning, man, you're thinking the worst. And I see his number. He's a truck driver. His truck was acting up the day before. I said, man, they done got in a truck wreck. I said, man, their truck done broke down. Something bad done happened. I grabbed that phone. I answered. And I said, Dad, you okay? He goes, I've been praying a lot lately.
5 o'clock in the morning.
And I said, that's good, Dad. And he goes, the truck was messing up yesterday. I said, he told me, he goes, I prayed about the truck. And he goes, I got a feeling it was God. God reaching out to him is what it was. He's finding his spiritual path right now. And the greatest thing I could ever want is for my family, everybody in my family to be saved, every single one of them. And he goes, I had a feeling I should park my truck and turn the key off and take me a nap for 2 hours. It's 18-wheeler that is messing up on him, running 60 miles an hour with a dead miss in the motor. And he's going to turn the engine off. By the way, if that situation and you got a load, that is the last thing you normally would do because you risk it not starting again. My dad took the best hour-and-a-half nap of his life, woke up, turned the key, and it idled perfectly. And he was able to deliver the load. And that's when he called me at 5 o'clock in the mornings when that truck was running good.
He realized that his prayer had been answered.
It
Man,
and I'll tell you, I'm telling you now, I'm going to tear up because I'm going to tell you, the greatest thing in my life right now is seeing my family get saved.
Yeah.
My wife going to Sunday service with my mom going to Sunday service. Man, my dad, I was able to preach a sermon the other day at this little church in South Louisiana, and I used Acts 16, and my dad was sitting there watching me.
Yeah.
And my grandma.
You've mentioned several times, the beauty of this and the beauty of this, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right
It's
when you
heaven
started,
on earth, man. It's heaven on earth.
right when you started talking, I pulled up some scripture and one that stuck out to me. It's Ezekiel 34:11, and it says, "For thus says the Lord God, I myself will search for my sheep, and I will seek them out." And your story is a testament to God for 38 straight years chasing you, seeking you out.
Amen.
And on the show, we talk a lot about going after the one. If one person gets something out of this, what can it do in somebody's life? What can we think about Billy Graham or some of these men that have had such profound impacts for the kingdom, and you just think about the impact of one, and God chased you for 38 years, and in the last year and a half, you're seeing your family come to Christ. You're seeing, you're seeing, the people around you. Your faith is changing people's lives and opening people's eyes. And man, what a beautiful story. So, I mean, it's going to be such an encouragement, to our listeners and to somebody out there. And even if it's just one, Daniel, look at the impact that it can have. So
step away from the 99 and look at the one. Focus on the one. I say it.
What a blessing.
I'll make it real quick. I had a guy that we found a homeless man with a 2-year-old living in the woods. And a sheriff's deputy come up to me after a church service and said, "Hey man, it's important. and we want you to go interview him, and go speak with him, see what you can find out. But he's got a 2-year-old with him, and I prayed, and I was told to step away from the 99, all the work I was doing, step away from that and work on the 1. And I think I planted a seed. Within a couple of months, we planted a seed. He was off the street last time I seen him. But we have free will, and God will give us a plan. And I did it many times in my life, to where you can use your own free will to mess up God's plan. But if you're ever told to leave the flock of the 99 and focus on the 1, now go back to the 99. Don't forget about your 99, but listen to God and just take it. Go after that 1. Because like you said, you never know how much that 1's going to change something.
That's right.
Every time I see somebody get baptized, I see somebody get saved, man.
Yeah. If you said go back to the 99, a shepherd's job is to bring the 1 back to the 99.
Yeah. Make it a full flock.
We are good in the company of others that love Jesus. To end the show, I want you to look in that camera right there beside Obie, and somebody out there is going through what you went through for 38 years, with the Lord chasing after you and you being like, nah, man, he's not real, whatever. What would you say? Speak directly to them to encourage them.
Pray. You know what? If you don't think God exists, just pray. What are you running from? If you truly believe he isn't there, then what is it going to hurt? I want you to take the time. I don't care where you're at, as long as you're not driving down the road now. No, you know what? Pray with the eyes open, but I want you to sit down, and I want you to truly pray, and I want you to find Christ. I'm telling you, it's you're not complete without it. Eternity is there, and it's a scary place without him.
Amen.
Scary place without him.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate you being here, brother.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Been great.
And
Appreciate y'all
Buddy,
having me.
is that your dog's name, Buddy?
Yeah,
Buddy's in here too. He's got a service dog that alerts him. Hey, thank y'all for being here. Appreciate you listening or watching, whatever platform you're on. Hit those buttons at the bottom. Help us reach more people for Jesus. Go kick the day in the face, and we'll catch you on the next one.